Welcome back to Love, Money, Rock and Roll on the Ellie route. We left off in this dream state. I think that's what it is. Let's get into it. The alarm clock was an unpleasant surprise for me. I don't even remember setting it. But it was time to get up and prepare for school. There were several reasons to attend class. First, I still had to talk to Kagome since I hadn't yesterday. Second, as paranoid as it might have sounded, the police could find my absence suspicious. Maybe Kagome would be more reasonable today. Probably not. But she wasn't in the classroom. And before the start of the first class, the principal walked in and announced an all-school assembly. I've seen this somewhere before, Kyosuke said without a hint of sarcasm. A shiver ran down through my spine. The feeling of some unclear danger seems to have paralyzed my whole body. Nick, let's go. Sure. I said reluctantly and stood up. Kyosuke and I stood in more or less the middle of the crowd. Michael joined us shortly, but Kagome was nowhere to be seen. Don't you think it's weird that Kagome hasn't shown up today? Would you be quiet? I waved him away. The principal looked over the students one last time, closed his eyes, and sighed in an overly dramatic manner. As you all know, a terrible tragedy took place several days ago. 8 students of our school met a brutal death at the hands of an unknown murderer. I promised you that we'd find the perpetrator, and we, with the help of the police, of course have. It's hard for me to say this, but the perpetrator turned out to be one of the students of our school. He stopped as if expecting a reaction, but everyone was listening quietly, looking at the principal with silent attention. The reason for this monstrous deed was a simple personal animosity. Come on, spit it out. Kyosuke grumbled next to me. I knew what Kiyama was gonna say anyway. Kagome, a senior student of our school, right now she's in custody and the police are doing their work. Kagome? So it was her after all. But I just couldn't believe it. It happens sometimes. You know something is gonna happen. Prepare yourself for it, and when it finally arrives, you still don't expect it. I could accuse Kagome all I wanted, believe she was a murderer deep inside, and reinforce that opinion with arguments of varying legitimacy. But I was completely unprepared for that to be the truth. Sure thing. Kyosuke scoffed. Well, Nick, what did I tell you? It's not a quiz show, you're not getting a prize for the right answer. I hissed at him, and this isn't a right answer here. I can't believe Kagome is physically capable of killing 8 people at once. Meanwhile, the principal continued. We couldn't imagine that such a monster was hiding among us. Among our children, we couldn't know. Kiyama-sensei's primary goal seemed to be the protection of the school's image. I assure you, if we ever had any suspicions... Japanese are generally good at hindsight. I felt a sharp lack of air. I need to go. I said to Kyosuke and carefully pushed my way through the crowd to the school gate. I felt better on the street with fewer people around, and far enough away from that principal's rancid speech couldn't reach me. I took several deep breaths, leaning my hand against the school gate. I told you. A familiar voice came from behind me. Don't scare me like that. I jumped up and spun around. Ellie stood next to me with a gloomy expression on her face. I'm not gloating, not at all, but I warned you from the very beginning. I hope you aren't about to say that Kagome was accused because of you. We've been brought through that too. You accused my grandpa of everything. So it's not his fault now? I haven't told him anything else, but her tone lacked confidence. Glad to hear that. I gave her a sour smirk and looked at the gathering in the schoolyard. The principal kept talking, but I couldn't exactly hear what he was saying. To hell with him anyway. I'm serious, this is better for everyone. Not for Kagome. Do you still think she's innocent? You don't trust the police? Not really, I don't have much reason to trust them. They're related to Himitsu, I think. Her dad's Japanese intelligence. There's no crime a capitalist would not commit for 300% profit. It's a good thing we don't have Marxism-Leninism here. I was a bit surprised by the depth of Ellie's knowledge, but still couldn't help myself. It wasn't Marx who said that. What does it matter? She grew angry and stopped her foot, but quickly caught herself. I understand it's not easy for you, and I shouldn't have said all that, sorry. She blurted out, turned around, and ran back to the school. At least now I knew it wasn't her fault. Although if Kobayashi-jun was involved in the arrest, he probably wouldn't tell his granddaughter. I calmed down a bit and went back to the yard. Just in time for the end of Kiyama-sensei's fiery speech. For a while, the students lingered, exchanged confusing glances. Almost all of them were quiet, only a few whispering to each other. I walked to Kyosuke and carefully put my hand on his shoulder. Have I missed much? You can watch the tape, he replied sarcastically. I wouldn't be surprised if he actually invited a TV crew. But I couldn't get rid of the thought that Kagome had brought it upon herself. What was she doing at the crime scene? What if the three of us weren't alone there after all, and it wasn't just the ghost of the night watching us? Wouldn't surprise me. During lunch, Kyosuke, Michael, and I gathered in the cafeteria, not so much to eat as to discuss everything that happened. As tired as I was of all this talking, I knew the conversation was unavoidable. I don't want to repeat myself, but I knew from the very first day that Kagome was the murderer. Let's not go there, alright? What, isn't it true? Tell him, Mike. No, it's not. Michael replied readily. You two are always like this. Kyosuke pouted and turned away. I still don't believe that Kagome is guilty. I don't know what evidence the police have, but it can't be true. It just can't. Think about it. 8 people at once. Did she shoot them with a machine gun? Also, this is Japan, so I don't even think you can get a hold of those. Besides, all of them had to have ended up there that night somehow, against their will, probably. Nick, we aren't the ones you have to convince. I know that. I looked around. There were even fewer people in the cafeteria than last time. It's interesting how an event that doesn't involve you directly can change your behavior. Were they really afraid that Kagome the maniac would jump at them with a knife right in the school? Still, for some reason, all of them decided that hunger was currently low on their list of priorities. The numerous empty tables were the best evidence for my theory. I still don't understand. Why are you protecting her like this? Because I couldn't find the answer. Because you don't have an answer. I just seem to think it's Himitsu. But I was wrong in the Kagome right for who I thought did something too, so my opinion doesn't really matter in that. For the first time, I felt there was no way back. Whether Kagome was really guilty or not, framed or not, whether Kobayashi-jun was involved or not, none of it mattered since nothing could be changed. There was no way for me to help her. Because I really believe she's not guilty, I said quietly. What's that? I can't hear you. Immediately receiving a stinging slap on it, courtesy of me. Calm down already. Ouch, that hurt. In any case, we can't do anything now. He probably just wanted to support me in his own way, since I doubt he cared about Kagome's fate. Thank you. Michael just nodded slightly in response. No, I mean, she could have accomplices. Triads, for example. Kyosuke's imagination had gone so wild he started believing his own nonsense. Have you ever thought that Kagome might have some Chinese roots if you look at her carefully? Kyosuke, enough. On one hand, the Yakuza option. I threw a piece of broccoli precisely in the center of Kyosuke's ramen bowl, several drops splashing onto his clothes. It took him several seconds to process what happened. He suddenly snapped out of it, squinting slyly. Take that. Then he threw a chopstick at me. I dodged and the chopstick hit the back of a girl sitting behind us. The girl turned out to be Saya-chan. Mitsu wasn't around. Suzahara-san? Kyosuke prattled. Saya turned around, looked at him angrily, but said nothing. Sorry. My chubby friend looked a little too scared. How did he even know her surname? Although, I'm surprised that she had one. To me, she was always just Saya-chan. Do you two know each other? Us? No, but... Kyosuke was noticeably sweating. Don't tell me you fall for her. I laughed way louder than I should have. Quiet, you. Oh, I can't. Now the rest of the students were looking at us, not just Saya-chan. Look, he's talking. I'm not judging you for Kagome. Hardly the same thing. I finally calmed down a bit. Are you sure about that? You know what? Whatever. I crossed my arms over my chest and turned away. Sorry, I didn't know. I looked at Michael. He didn't seem to be interested in our conversation at the slightest. Yeah, and why do you think that I, being at a loss for words, wasn't like him either? Never mind. I said firmly and got back to the food. The school day ended pretty quickly. My classmates were unusually quiet. A dismal expression stuck on most of their faces. Most likely, not a single one of them even considered that Kagome could be innocent. It's not hard to imagine an outcast who you wouldn't even sit next to have done something terrible. Nobody would even be surprised. For many, having some sort of physical or mental defect, even just being shy or lacking social skills, is an aggravating circumstance in and of itself. What must it feel that the entire world is against you? I know how that feels. Lacking social skills sucks. I felt like they were all sneering down at me, at the very least, may even prepared to attack me. What if deep down inside everyone thought I was an outcast too? How was I fundamentally any different from Kagome? By having a couple friends and knowing Ellie? Our personalities were probably pretty similar from the outside. We'd both suffered at the hands of Kobayashi Corporation. We both had a very vague idea of prospects of the future. We were both unhappy with our lives. When I thought about how I could have warned her yesterday, but hadn't, I felt sick. Today, my old house seems to be looking down on me too. If my parents had been alive, they would have renovated it by now, or at least kept the yard clean. I couldn't say I didn't care about it, but worrying about the inner and outer appearance of my home was somewhere around the bottom of my list of priorities. When I opened the door, I immediately felt something was wrong, but I had nowhere to retreat to. Ah, sup, Irina. Indeed, Irina was sitting in the kitchen, idly flipping through the pages of a newspaper. Welcome. Sorry for coming in without an invitation, I said, and paying no attention to her, walked to the fridge. Good to see you, Nikolai. This is my house, actually. Of course, I should have been more careful around her, but these regular visits were starting to get on my nerves. I hope you've had enough time to think about our offer. I haven't, to be honest. Oh, and what's been keeping you so busy? Music? She smiled, but her eyes followed me with the attention of a predator. That too, and the murders at my school. Do you know anything about that? I asked randomly. Do I know anything about the murders? She replied thoughtfully, as if trying to grasp the meaning of what I just said. It seems the police just recently detained a suspect. Exactly. We were talking about her last time. And I think the two of you are in the same class. Stop playing dumb. The fake expression on Irina's face disappeared at once, giving place to cold concentration. Yeah, we framed her. But why? The boxes on top of it shook but didn't fall. She was sticking her nose everywhere and it had become a nuisance to us. How could a simple Japanese schoolgirl become a nuisance to the almighty KGB? I exclaimed. Be quiet. The walls have ears. I thought they were yours. I would have agreed with you under different circumstances, but Kagome's father is hardly uninvolved in this whole affair, and if she hadn't bothered certain people, she'd be enjoying her freedom now. Then why not just kill her? Indeed. She replied as if returning the question to me. In any case, this would be a good lesson for you. 8 people? Don't you think that's too many for a lesson? What did they do? Collateral damage? Right. Why didn't I guess that right away? Alright, Nikolai, I'm not in the mood to chat with you. Then why are you here? I think I told you last time, it's good that you've grown close with Kobayashi-jun's granddaughter. Is your relationship developing? From what I just gained, the KGB caused the murders. Kagome's? No. Himitsu's still sus. I mean, there's something clearly wrong with her. It was amazing how a fraction of the second of this woman could turn from a KGB mayor or major to the silly employee of a French embassy. Appreciate her good drinks and handsome boys. We aren't in a relationship. That's not in my opinion. It's a fact. It's very strange to play in a band together and have no relationship at all. You sure know a lot. We know plenty, but not enough, and you'll help us fix that. How? We've been trying to infiltrate Kobayashi-jun's inner circle for some time now, but he's very cautious. And that's where you take the stage. In a couple days, there'll be a charity ball at Kobayashi's estate, and I need you to be there. Is it so difficult to get an invitation for a charity ball? Just make a donation. We're in the US or even Europe. Every guest's background is checked thoroughly by the corporation's security service. And of course, they'll let me in. They will, if you come as the beau of the host's granddaughter. Married me over my head, huh? I'm glad you're having fun. Positivity increases the chance of success. Just don't go too far. Let's say again to this state. What next? Well, next. Looks like a miniature camera. You don't need to know the details, but we have reliable intel that Kobayashi-Jun recently made a secret deal with the Americans. You should have some papers concerning this deal in his office. Your task is to find and carefully photograph them. Again. They were clearly used to be text under the logo, but it was painted over with a black marker. Look for this logo. What does this mean? It means you know more than enough to complete the mission, except it's clearly made by hand, but extremely careful. You need to get into this room. She circled the right place with the red marker. What happens if I fail? Don't you know already? I mean, what if I can't find the documents? Then let's hope that your and Kobayashi's Ellie sense love ends up being more than a juvenile infatuation. The words made me feel disgusted. Even a strange sour taste appeared in my mouth. So I'm just expendable to you? What are you saying? And my death would be written off as collateral damage? You know, I'm tired of having these soul-searching conversations with you and trying to convince you of the importance of what we're doing. I wish I could know exactly what we are doing. You don't have much choice. You either help us and we help you. Did you just give the same offer to Kagome? Did she reject it? You aren't her, and you should be grateful for that. So you either help us, or you're left alone with your problems. I haven't seen much help from you so far. If you manage this, we'll be able to bring you back to the USSR. Unless you have something keeping you here. You understand. Until next time. I left with the plan of Kobayashi's estate. I'm so gonna snitch. The rest of the day was spent in pointless rumination, if that's an option anyway. I'm sure we can. We're going after Ellie. Why would I help them? Was anything keeping me in Japan? My relationship with Himitsu was completely ruined, and worse than that, deep inside, I believed it was for the better. Yeah, there was the prospect of a mind-blowing music career, but how real was that fantasy? She could repeat all she wanted to, and she wished to make her own choices, but not everything in a teenager's life bends to their will. Directly or indirectly, our choices are defined by our parents and loved ones. That's if you have parents and loved ones. Joke's on you. Ours, Nikolai's, are dead. And I'd imagine even more so in the Kobayashi family. I was walking from one room to another when I suddenly noticed the smell. It's interesting how each house has its own palette of aromas, incomparable to anything. The smell of dust, wood, paper turned yellow, of old cloths, moth-eaten, and languishing in a wardrobe, and the odor of soap that seems to be the same everywhere, yet smells differently in each house. But our specific smell had almost disappeared in the year and a half since my parents' death. Soon enough, there wouldn't be anything left in this house but stench, dampness, and mold. So I decided who I was afraid of more, the KGB or Kobayashi Corporation. Despite all the power the corporation possessed, they hadn't manifested itself in any way so far. Meanwhile, Irina regularly visited me in person, was very talkative, and presented a vivid picture of what would happen if I refused to work with her. And after what she did to Ellie's friends, and then a thought suddenly came to mind. What if the KGB was just trying to profit off the murders? There's really no way to know if Kagome had been framed or not, especially after the police detained her. Given that the Japanese justice system isn't known for its acquittals, I don't have much of seeing Kagome outside the walls of a prison, but thinking about it, I wouldn't have refused to accompany Ellie to a ball even without Irina forcing me to do it. Just the thought of us dancing in the middle of a bright ballroom made shivers run down my spine. Was I good enough to be her beau? Bae. Same thing. Then I could make things up as I go. I could just lie and say I looked for the documents and didn't find any. Irina wouldn't have any way to tell whether I was telling the truth or not, right? No, the KGB's gonna have something if I have a say in it. Sometimes conclusions you come to late at night seem hard won and suffered for at the time, but are simple and obvious the following morning. The bottom line was Irina was pushing me to develop a relationship with Ellie, and there was nothing wrong with that. Good deeds often start with not so sincere intentions. As is well known, the MIC had developed many things and that found later civilian use, like GPS. Apparently that was made by the US military or something. Kyosuke seemed to have run out of ideas, or maybe he was still upset by what I had done yesterday. Either way, he was quieter than usual today. Oh, it's empty. I was about to leave when I heard steps in the corridor, and Ellie walked in. Oh, didn't expect to see you here, she said without much emotion. Hey. I visit here all the time, but I never figured out what exactly to say. Yeah, hi, I just wanted to say it was a bit awkward yesterday. I didn't mean to accuse you of anything. Ellie looked upset. You have nothing to apologize for. I was thinking about it too, and I realized I said too much. Well, it's in the past now, truce? She smiled hesitantly in response. I hope that if Kagome is really guilty, the police found all the necessary evidence. I mean, so she's not falsely accused. I know. Anyway, this is my spot. What are you doing here? She puffed without a hint of anger. What, am I not allowed to be here? No. I was just surprised to find someone in this place. Well, you see, since it's all over, I wanted to ask you. Wanna go somewhere together? Of course I didn't owe Kagome anything. But not a day had passed since her arrest, and there I was, hitting on Ellie. Yes, I was being forced by Irina, but did I really mind? Not at all. I was very much for it. But the whole situation also seemed somewhat surreal, especially the idea she might agree. Somebody was about to turn on the lights, the audience would stand up and leave, and I'd return to a cruel and unromantic reality. Are you asking me out? If you'd like to. We don't need to go out somewhere. We could spend time at your place. Play something. You like video games? I was babbling non-stop, afraid to hear her answer. Ellie, in turn, looked like she was solving a complex mathematical equation. No, I'm not much into games. But actually, we've got a ball tomorrow. You can come if you want, of course. Would your grandfather be okay with it? Irina hadn't even mentioned it. Apparently, she really did only care about result, not the means. He won't even notice you. There's so many attendees every year. He'll be busy talking to all sorts of important people and won't have time for me either. If you say so. There's a formal dress code though. What do you mean? A white shirt and a tuxedo. Ellie apparently couldn't even imagine that somebody might not have something as simple as a tuxedo in their wardrobe. Meanwhile, I didn't even have a white shirt. Sure thing, got it. Who do you think I am? A dirty peasant? She laughed, came closer, and fixed my tie. For a moment, I froze, forgetting to breathe. Better not show up there looking like this. A ball. Tuxedos doesn't feel very rock and roll. I said to somehow deal with the embarrassment. It's not all black and white. This kind of life has its advantages. I guess. Just don't overthink it. It's not a date. I'd invite Ishida and Mitsuyoshi if I wanted to, even Tokyo rather. Well, no, maybe not him. She added after a second of consideration. Never even thought about it. But you just asked me out. I guess I did. Can I just ask you out for a dance once, and we'll go from there? Ellie muttered as if learning a new word. That's what a ball is for, dancing. I dance there every year, so why wouldn't I dance with you? Then it's a deal. I was about to leave before she changed her mind, but Ellie stopped me. What's your surname, for the guest list? Onoken. That's a strange surname. Sounds normal to me. I shrugged. See ya. Now I had to solve the issue of my appearance. I didn't know where I could buy a tuxedo in Tokyo. Hey, why not ask the principal? I could totally see that happening. Although among my few friends, all two of them to be precise, there was only one person who could help. Michael? Why would he have a tuxedo? Hey Michael, I have a personal request. I'm listening. Do you know where I can get a tuxedo? A tuxedo? He asked with genuine surprise. Yeah, I need to go to an official event tomorrow. They won't let me in without a tuxedo. He thought about it and took his time before answering. I do, but it won't be cheap. How not cheap exactly? At least 30,000 yen. Apart from the fact I'd need to go to a bank, I couldn't really afford spending that much to begin with. I doubted Arena would reimburse me for work expenditures. Got it. Can we meet at 6 o'clock in the city center tonight? Yeah, no problem. Thanks, you're a lifesaver. The bank was crowded. It was Friday, the end of the month. Every time I withdrew money from the account, I couldn't shake the feeling I was about to find there wasn't a single yen left in it. Of course, that was impossible. Or to be more precise, it was unlikely. But accidents happen, don't they? Walking to meet with Michael, I felt content. My wallet full of money. Still, it felt like the invitation to the ball had been too easy to get. I guess the sum of good and bad luck in most people's lives more or less equals 0. Yeah, you don't win millions at the lottery, but you also don't get hit by a car and end up crippled. Yeah, you lose your loved ones, but that's balanced by the time you spent with them. This time I got lucky with Ellie, but what would tomorrow bring? The queue at the bank made me late to the meeting and Michael's already waiting for me. Sorry, got held up. No worries, I'm not in a hurry. Great. This is a first for me, choosing a tuxedo. I thought about it and remembered that you could actually just rent a tuxedo. Rent? Why? Well, let's say you buy a tuxedo for one night and won't have any use for it again. What's the point of buying it? Makes sense. I thought of a suggestion. Would it be cheaper? Most likely. Lead the way then. We stopped by one of the stores that rent out clothes. Evening dresses, jackets, and tuxedos were displayed next to Halloween and anime costumes. I carefully examined several tuxedos. All of them were worn, scuffed, and one even had a patch. They were cheap, sure, but what'd people think of it if I went to a ball at the Kobayashi State wearing that? Nothing to your taste? Nothing at all, to be honest. Have you seen those rugs? I'd feel bad showing up to a drinking party in one of them. Not that my wardrobe was any better. Is this event you're going to so serious? Yeah, Kobayashi Ellie's ball. Kobayashi Ellie? He suddenly leavened up. I heard something about that from Kyosuke, but I thought it was just his usual chatter. Well, sometimes even he can be right. So, it's over between you and Catherine? Catherine? What does this have to do with her? That's a surprise. Although Michael had his own reason to ask, I remembered the conversation the park had overheard last week. I understand you like her. Michael didn't respond, clearly expecting me to continue. You know, I don't think this is the best time to talk about it. Well, you found time for a ball. That's different. It is, huh? Maybe that was the case. Here's a story where you can buy a tuxedo. Oh, nice. Well, how do I look? We were standing in front of a mirror in a luxurious men's clothing store. It was pricey, sure, but I had no other options if I wanted to look decent. You sure you can afford it? I am. I waved to him away, in for a penny, in for a pound. Do you really want to impress her so badly? Who, Ellie? No, I don't think so. I just want to fit in with the crowd. Random people don't get invited to Kobayashi's balls. I couldn't hear a single note of goading in his voice, but it still made me tense up. I'm playing in her band now. You know she has a band, right? So there. Did she invite the other members too? They didn't want to come? I replied uncertainly. Futilely trying to do a button. I see. How do these events usually go anyway? Are you asking me? Yeah, who else? I don't think I've ever been to events of that level, but I think people mostly gather there to discuss business and politics in an informal environment. Get some useful context, drink a bit, and dance. Sure doesn't sound like a rock concert. If you don't mind, I'd suggest you be careful with alcohol there. They'll most likely serve champagne, and you know how easy it is to have too much of that without even noticing. Who do you take me for? In any case, I'm sure the guests will be preoccupied with themselves and each other, so you shouldn't be too scared of someone paying too much attention to you. I get that. Finally, I chose one of the cheapest suits, found a white shirt to go with it, and bought them both. Thanks, friend. No need. Turned out a bit expensive, didn't it? Beauty requires sacrifices, they say. We bid a warm farewell to each other. On the way back, I also bought a cheap pair of shoes made with faux leather in a family store. And there I was, walking dashingly down the street while Kagome is probably in some dank prison dungeon. Why dungeon? What if she's put in a big cell with dozens of people? Although that definitely wasn't any better. God, grant me the serenity to accept things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Once I came home, I threw them on the kitchen table with great pleasure and washed my hands. The fridge was empty, but not quite empty enough for groceries. It happens sometimes. You find some bread, a piece of cheese, and a couple eggs, and that's enough to survive at night. Only to hate yourself the next morning where instead of having breakfast, you have to get dressed and go to a convenience store. I was just about to start cooking when the front door opened. Nikolai, it's me. I froze in an unnatural pose and kept standing like that until she walked into the kitchen. Hi. Are you cooking? What's with that? What's with you? I'm hungry. When people are hungry, they sometimes cook for themselves, right? In Japan, there was the art of repairing ceramic dishes by using gold to seal the cracks. Kintsugi. Was there a way to repair a broken friendship the same way? I don't know, Nikolai, I don't know. Decided to update your wardrobe? What do you need that for? Well, I got invited to a ball. I started enthusiastically, but immediately stopped myself. Does she have to know that? You? To a ball? Mitsu laughed and frowned as soon as she realized I wasn't joking. Kobayashi-senpai? Yes. I grinned idiotically and scratched my nape. What kind of relationship do you two have? She stared at me firmly. There's nothing between us, don't get the wrong idea. Sure, Ellie and I weren't in a relationship, but that could change. And what, was I gonna miss that chance because I felt awkward about Mitsu? At least for now. Aren't you aiming high, Nikolai? She flung her arms up and down, angrily glaring at the tuxedo. Does it surprise you? I didn't want another fight with her, but couldn't tolerate her derogatory tone anymore. I'm surprised by your behavior. First you keep secrets with that senpai Kagome. Then you get your window broken, and now Kobayashi Ellie's in the picture. If I didn't know you any better, I think you were lying. So you don't think so now? I think there's something strange going on, but you're at least telling the truth, or you believe you are. What's that supposed to mean? That someone might just be using you. Who, Ellie? We're just playing the same band for now. Is that so? That is so. I bet you didn't think I'd be capable of something like that. I'm happy if that's true. Why would I lie? Why did you lie about everything else? When did I? If you don't remember... Enough. If you have something to say, please do. Spare me all this. It's pointless to explain something to someone who doesn't understand stuff. If you don't tell me, I'll never understand what I've done wrong from your point of view. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. You know, Nikolai, at first I thought it was about Catherine-chan. But I don't even know you now. Maybe you joined a cult. She smirked sadly and ran her hand over the tuxedo's cover. She clearly couldn't get out of her mind. Yeah, the cult of rock and roll, yeehaw. I shouted and jumped to the middle of the room. Or not. Mitsu laughed. Genuinely, it sounded to me. Anyway, I was invited to a ball tomorrow. Ellie asked the rest of the band too, but no one wanted to come. And naturally, you didn't refuse. I wonder, how much did you pay for this? Who are you, my accountant? You know, I was making dinner here. Something simple, making do with what we have, as they say. All the pennies left after buying that luxurious tuxedo. But as cultists aren't picky, we eat whatever our leader says. Nikolai? She smiled, wordlessly letting me know that was a bit much. Weirdly enough, Himitsu looked and acted much calmer today than the last couple of weeks. What's changed? I'm not accusing you of anything. Even these words sound like an accusation. Maybe you're just feeling guilty, so you see accusers everywhere. But I was tired of playing the role of a little kid, caught by his mother with a cigarette in his hands. I don't want to continue this conversation. Fine, I get it. Get what? Everything. Mitsu stood up, looked at the tuxedo again, and somewhat indifferently, as if it was a pile of garbage in the garden that she couldn't find time to throw away. Good luck with your ball. I decided not to answer, even despite the sense of incompleteness hanging in the air. As usual, I wanted to prove that I was right no matter the consequence. Good. The ill-fated tuxedo remained on the table. The conversation with Himitsu made me lose my appetite, but I still ate dinner and then sat in front of the TV, pointlessly switching channels. The changing pictures on the screen soon stopped distracting me from my dark thoughts. At least what I had that. While Kagome was enjoying the company of floor walls. Dang it. As if it were my fault. As if I'd put her there myself. I tried to imagine tomorrow's ball, Ellie and me dancing, the admiring crowds around us. In these dreams we waltzed, even though the most I could do in real life was shake my head at a concert. Well, that's what dreams are for, to be anything you want. I caught the pleasant flow of thoughts, where images are born of themselves in your head, replace each other, and float at ease before your mind's eye, like the landscape outside the window of a ship. I went to bed to stay in that wonderful mental state for longer, as if I was falling asleep. Good stuff. Niju Roku, 25. But the night failed to bring me the rest I longed for. I was constantly waking up and glaring at the clock. Oh man, that happens way too often than I like to admit. I kept hearing noises from the street and thinking about what was gonna happen the coming evening. I only managed to fall asleep just before dawn. Hey, just don't go to school, you'll be fine. I got up at 9 and there was no need to. The ball was scheduled for the evening, and nothing was stopping me from sleeping all the way until then. Still, no matter how much I wanted sleep, I felt a sense of unease that wouldn't let me stay in bed any longer. A cup of hot tea helped me to come to my senses, but my eyes weren't closing by themselves anymore, although it still felt like there was a dense fog inside my head. I walked to the front porch to freshen up and stared over Himitsu's house. I couldn't say the fight we had yesterday had been serious, but she'd been acting weird. Had that been the last straw? My urge to apologize, a habit I'd built over the years, was stronger than my willpower. Huh. She has a nice looking house. Lots of plants. It didn't open immediately, and Inosuke-san, Himitsu's father, appeared on the doorstep. Good morning. He clearly wasn't expecting guests so early, or maybe me in particular. No, Mitsu isn't here. She must be. When will she be back? Not anytime soon, Nikolai. Mitsu's staying in her grandparents' or grandmother's house for a while. Her grandmother's house? Yeah, she'll be living there for now. And for how long? I can't say for sure at the moment. We're talking days or months, I think, maybe longer. Inosuke-san, did something happen? You should know better than I, Nikolai. What does that mean? It means you should have known what happened between the two of you, and why Mitsu asked me to take her to her grandmother's place. Ah, so she asked you. Nothing yesterday had seemed to hint at this turn of events. That's all I have to say, Nick. Goodbye, Nikolai. And we know where her grandmother's is. In a small little village out in the middle of nowhere. He never said more than he had to, never tried to impress others, and seemingly didn't care about what others thought of him. If someone like him says something, he means it. Could he have taken Himitsu far away from me on his own? I thought he could, but in a way it happened too quickly. I was sure that if yesterday Himitsu had known she was leaving, she would have at least hinted at it. Did you forget something, Nikolai? What about school? She can't leave like this in the middle of the school year. I'll handle it. You'll handle that, I see. Don't you think you should have worried about this before? Before what? Before you ruined your relationship with my daughter. Good. At least you understand now. Goodbye. I went back home, deep in contemplation. Still, Himitsu couldn't have just left. Yesterday's conversation didn't feel like a farewell. I had a rough idea of where her grandmother lived since I'd been there a few times when we were little, but did I have the time to deal with that now? No, you have a ball to go to. There was the ball in Arena, Zedfields, Ellie. Months or maybe longer, huh? For a second, I imagined I'd never see Mitsu again and felt a dull pain in my chest. Even realizing what I'd done wrong, I didn't know whether I could have acted any differently. In large part, Kagome was in prison because of me. If we'd never known each other, things might have gone very differently for her. And if I was so worried about not doing enough for her, how would have I handled something happening to Mitsu? No, this was for the better. People like me should suffer. The problem was, by suffering myself, I made the people around me suffer too. Yeah, clearly I should have returned to my homeland after my parents' death. That is, unless I would have made new friends there and broken their lives too. What the hell is all this? What the hell is this? I was sinking ever deeper into depths of depression. It's all your fault. My arm was mid-swing when it stopped and hung powerlessly in the air. After all, it cost a lot of money. I smiled at the comical side of the situation. We buy things we don't need. With money, we don't have to impress the people who don't care about us. What? Either I read that wrong, or that was misspelled. Maybe I did want to impress Ellie, but that'd be much easier to do so by playing the bass like a virtuoso than putting on a stupid clown suit. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Oh, it's just Kyosuke. Hello. Hi, you got something serious to talk about, or he squinted even harder, that his eyes became two narrow slits. I sighed and stepped aside. Well, come in, I guess. Kyosuke walked into the kitchen after me and immediately noticed the tuxedo. So, it's true. What? To be honest, I didn't quite believe Mike. I mean, sure, he's not the biggest mouth in the city, but you going to a ball. I hadn't asked Michael to not tell anyone, and he often took requests or the lack of them literally. But he could have assumed. Well, imagine that. I can't not ask. What did you have to do to get an invitation to a ball at Kobayashi's estate? Yeah, you really can't. Where do I start? It just so happens that I'm now the bass player in Ellie's band. So she invited me to a ball. The other guys didn't want to join, but she asked them too. Aren't you gonna say something? I'm just wondering whether I should punch you in the face for hiding something so important to me, or congratulate you. Or maybe praise you and Michael on the incredible prank. It'd be an expensive prank. Music is great and all, but what about a more personal relationship? I don't know what you're talking about. I give the default response, but I felt a pleasant chill run down my spine. How long have we known each other? I know you in and out. If you do, why are you asking? Because I need details. He rolled his eyes, jumped to me, grabbed my hands and shook them back and forth. They sustained me. He wheezed in the air of an anime villain. There aren't any. Don't crumple the tuxedo. So, some rags are more important than a friend to you. These rags cost 30,000 yen. A compelling argument. There's nothing to tell you. Seriously, if there was something, I just don't know what's gonna happen next. My life has been changing at the speed of light recently. First Catherine, then Kagome. Wait. But what do you have to do with Kagome and the murders? You know the joke you never tell people with big mouths. Nick, if you've gotten yourself into something, do you really think I'd... What are you implying? That I killed them all? No, of course not. I thought you wanted to ask something about Ellie. I did. Go ahead then. With what? With asking about her. I don't know, her cup size. That's what you always want to know, right? Do you know it? I don't, how would I? Will you tell me if you find out? No, Kyosuke, even if I do, I won't. Fair enough. Got anything to eat? I thought Himitsu-chan took care of you. Himitsu's busy now. Nobody cares about you except for me. You want to eat out then? I heard there's a new restaurant next to. Not today, I have to prepare for the ball. I better be the first person you talk to about it. Of course. After Kyosuke's left, I took the tuxedo out of the cover and tried it on. It looked better in the store. But it was someone I absolutely did not expect to see today. Catherine in the flesh. Why so fancy? She laughed as soon as I opened the door. Your every visit is a celebration. But really though, I'm going somewhere tonight. Looks like you're going to a ball or something. Precisely. Will you invite me then? Sure. We proceeded to the kitchen. Catherine stopped hesitantly as if she'd forgotten something. And we'll leave off here since I'm sure she'll have something different to say than on the Kagome route. That being said, I hope you guys have enjoyed today's video. If you did, don't forget the like button, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. As always, goodbye.